Hey guys, tonight we're stepping inside a Viking Longhouse, that giant wooden structure glowing warmly by firelight amid the chilly northern darkness. You trudge through the cold, maybe smelling smoke and roasting meat, and you probably won't survive a day here without learning to love the flickering flames and the occasional goat wandering through. But stick with me, because we're about to explore daily life in this lively, smoky, and sometimes chaotic home that sheltered families, feasts, and stories alike. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Drop your location and local time in the comments too. I love seeing where you're tuning in from. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You step inside the longhouse, the giant door creaking as it opens onto a vast wooden room filled with the glow of a central hearth. The air is thick with smoke, the scent of wood and cooking meat mixing with the ever-present chill from outside. Walls are lined with benches, and piles of furs cover the floor, creating pockets of warmth. The roof, supported by massive beams, is low enough that you have to duck, but high enough for smoke to drift upward through an opening. This longhouse isn't just a home, it's a community hub, a fortress of family life, craftsmanship, and storytelling. Typically, these houses range from 15 to 30 meters long, wide enough to hold several families or extended kin groups. They were made from timber with thatched roofs of straw or reed, and often built near water sources or farmland. One curious fact is that the smoke from the central fire wasn't fully vented outside. Instead, it filled the house, helping to preserve meat hanging from rafters while making breathing a bit smoky, something modern noses might find challenging. Historians still argue whether the smoky atmosphere was a feature or a flaw. Some say it was tolerated due to construction limits. Others suggest it served a purpose in insect control or meat curing. So as you settle near the hearth's glow, imagine the hum of voices, clatter of tools, and flickering shadows shaping the rhythm of Viking Longhouse life. You crouch low by the hearth's warm glow, feeling the heat radiate through the smoky air. The hearth is the heart of the Viking Longhouse, a roaring fire pit built into the floor, where flames leap and crackle, casting dancing shadows on the timber walls. This fire isn't just for warmth, it's the central gathering point for cooking, light, and community. From morning to night, the hearth governs life inside the longhouse. It's where stews bubble in iron cauldrons suspended over the flames, where bread is baked on hot stones, and where meat roasts slowly on spits. You can almost smell the mingling scents of roasting boar, fresh fish, and herb-infused broths simmering as families prepare meals. Beyond cooking, the hearth provides much-needed light in the long, dark northern winters. Without windows or lanterns, the fire's glow keeps the home alive through twilight hours. You notice benches arranged around the hearth, inviting storytelling, weaving, and socializing, its warmth a magnet drawing everyone close. A quirky fact: some Vikings believed the hearth fire held a spiritual significance. It was seen as a protector of the family and a link to ancestors. In some sagas, extinguishing the hearth fire was considered a dire omen, signaling disaster or death. Historians still debate how Viking hearths were constructed and maintained to balance warmth with smoke ventilation. Some argue that open-roof designs allowed smoke to escape naturally, while others suggest more advanced smoke holes or chimneys existed in wealthier homes. Remember that smoky haze from Section 1? The hearth is both the source and the reason, shaping longhouse life in equal measure. As you settle in close, feel the primal comfort of firelight, ancient, alive, and endlessly mesmerizing. You rise with the sun's first faint light, or at least as much as the dim glow filtering through thick walls allows, and step into the familiar rhythm of Viking chores. Daily life inside the longhouse is a constant whirl of activity, tending fires, preparing food, mending clothes, and caring for animals. The air smells of smoke and damp wood as everyone gets to work. Women start by stoking the hearth, ensuring coals burn steadily for cooking throughout the day. You watch as they grind grains into flour using simple stone querns, readying dough for the day's bread. Meanwhile, men sharpen axes and maintain tools, essential for both farming and defense. Children scamper about, learning their roles through play and observation, a hands-on education in survival. One curious detail is the use of communal spaces within the longhouse. There was rarely strict separation. Instead, daily routines overlapped. The blacksmith's hammer rings near the weaving loom, and the chatter of storytelling mingles with the scraping of knives. The longhouse was a buzzing hive of shared life, sometimes noisy, sometimes quiet. Historians still argue whether chores were gendered strictly, or if roles were more fluid, depending on necessity and family structure. Some evidence suggests that Viking women might have engaged in crafting weapons or farming more than traditionally thought, challenging modern assumptions. As you watch a woman spin wool near the fire, you remember the comforting haze of smoke mingling with laughter and toil, time measured not by clocks but by the steady flow of daily tasks. These routines, repetitive yet vital, are the backbone of Viking Longhouse life. You look around the bustling longhouse and see a mix of people gathered together, family members, distant kin, and even occasional guests. Viking longhouses weren't just homes for nuclear families. They were lively communal spaces where extended clans lived, worked, and socialized under one roof. The social structure here is layered, with roles and relationships woven tightly like the furs on the benches. At the center, you spot the head of the household, often a man whose authority was respected but not absolute. Women, especially elders, held significant influence over domestic affairs and child-rearing. Younger members learned respect through participation in storytelling, and guests were welcomed warmly, reflecting Viking hospitality traditions. There's an intriguing tidbit. Sometimes, longhouses housed foster children or thralls, servants, and their roles could vary widely. Some were integrated into family life, while others lived with clear social distinctions. This mixing of people made the longhouse a microcosm of Viking society. Historians still debate the extent to which social hierarchies influenced everyday interactions within the longhouse. Did class and status strictly separate occupants, or did communal living blur some lines? The answer likely shifted depending on wealth and local customs. Remember the firelight from Section 2? It illuminated faces young and old, noble and servant alike, creating a shared space where stories and life blended. This complex social web was as much a part of Viking survival as their weapons and ships. So, as the night deepens, imagine voices mingling, laughter echoing, and bonds strengthening, all beneath one vast wooden roof. You lean in toward the firelight, the scent of roasting meat filling the air as the longhouse prepares for another communal feast. Food wasn't just nourishment, it was a central social ritual, binding the household together with shared meals and celebrations. Vikings were skilled hunters, fishers, and farmers, and their diet reflected the bounties of their rugged environment. Imagine women and men working side by side to prepare salted pork, smoked fish, hearty stews of barley and vegetables, and fresh bread baked on heated stones near the hearth. The fire's heat was carefully controlled, not just for warmth but to cook meals that would sustain the family through long, cold nights. A quirky fact, Vikings enjoyed a fermented dairy drink called skyr, a kind of yogurt that doubled as food and probiotic medicine. It's a tasty reminder that their diet was far from bland. Feasts were occasions for storytelling, singing, and toasting with horn cups filled with mead or ale. These gatherings reinforced social bonds and honored traditions. Though the longhouse was often utilitarian, during feasts it became a lively, spirited space. Historians still argue how frequently such feasts occurred and how extravagant they were. Some evidence suggests regular celebratory meals, while others believe grand feasts were rare, reserved for special occasions or the wealthy. Remember that smoky hearth? Its glow warmed not just bodies but spirits, as food and firelight fed both sustenance and soul. So, as you settle deeper into the night's calm, imagine the crackling fire, the clinking cups, and the laughter of Vikings gathered close in hearty celebration. You watch a skilled craftsman bent over his workbench, sparks flying as he hammers a glowing piece of iron. The Viking longhouse wasn't just a place for living. It was also a workshop where artisans shaped the tools, weapons, and everyday items essential for survival. Craftsmanship thrived here, blending practicality with artistry. Blacksmiths forged axes, knives, and nails, vital for farming, hunting, and defense. Woodworkers carved everything from furniture to sledges, while leatherworkers fashioned shoes, belts, and protective gear. The longhouse's communal space echoed with the rhythmic sounds of hammering, sawing, and stitching, a soundtrack of industrious life. An intriguing detail is that some craftsmen specialized in ornamental work, engraving intricate patterns on weapons or jewelry, reflecting Viking aesthetics and social status. These decorations weren't just pretty, they carried meaning and signaled identity within the community. Historians still debate how centralized these crafts were. Were artisans mostly independent specialists, or did households operate as self-sufficient units producing their own goods? Archaeological finds suggest a mix, with some workshops serving entire villages. Remember those feasts from Section 5? The tools forged in these workshops made those gatherings possible, from cooking pots to drinking horns. Craftsmanship was the backbone of daily life, sustaining both survival and culture. As you relax by the firelight, imagine the steady glow illuminating hands skilled in creation, a timeless dance of making that echoes through the ages. You feel the rough texture of wool between your fingers as you watch someone carefully weave a thick fabric near the hearth's warmth. Clothing was essential in the chilly Viking world, and textiles played a vital role in daily life inside the Longhouse. From coarse linen tunics to finely woven wool cloaks, garments protected bodies from the cold and marked social status. Women were often the primary weavers and spinners, turning sheep's wool and flax fibers into threads using simple tools like spindles and looms. The Longhouse was filled with the gentle rhythm of spinning wheels and the soft clack of weaving, sounds as familiar as the crackling fire. A quirky tidbit: Vikings sometimes dyed their fabrics using natural ingredients like berries, lichens, and bark, creating subtle but beautiful colors. Red was a popular choice, considered a symbol of strength and vitality. Historians still argue about the extent to which Vikings traded textiles or raw materials. Did some families specialize in weaving for trade, or was most cloth produced within households? Evidence suggests both, with some longhouses having dedicated weaving areas. Remember the craftsmen from Section 6? Their work in tools and leather complemented textile production, creating a complete wardrobe suited for harsh northern climates. Clothing was practical, but also an expression of identity and artistry. So, as the firelight flickers, imagine threads weaving together warmth, skill, and tradition, a fabric binding the past and present. You settle down closer to the hearth, the flickering flames casting playful shadows as an elder's voice rises softly in the smoky air. Storytelling was the heartbeat of the Viking Longhouse, a tradition weaving history, legend, and entertainment into the fabric of daily life. Around the fire, tales of gods, heroes, and distant lands were passed from one generation to the next. These oral narratives were rich and varied, sagas of Odin's wisdom, Thor's thunderous deeds, and voyages across stormy seas. Storytellers used vivid gestures and voices to bring characters to life, their performances captivating listeners in the warm glow of the firelight. An amusing detail: some stories featured mischievous trolls or talking animals, adding humor and surprise. It wasn't all grim battles and harsh survival. Laughter and wit had their place in the Longhouse too. Historians still debate how much these tales were fixed and written down versus fluid and adapted with each telling. The earliest written sagas appeared centuries later, but the oral tradition was likely vibrant and ever-changing during the Viking Age. Remember the social fabric from Section 4? Storytelling reinforced communal bonds, education, and cultural identity, making the Longhouse a living archive of Viking values and history. As you drift towards sleep, imagine voices blending with crackling embers, weaving dreams and memories into the night's embrace. You glance around the Longhouse as twilight deepens, noting small oil lamps flickering alongside the hearth's fire. Firelight alone wasn't always enough to illuminate the Longhouse's long, shadowy interior, especially during the long, dark winters. Vikings relied on additional light sources like lamps and candles, crafted from natural materials, to brighten the evening hours. These lamps were simple bowls carved from stone or wood, filled with animal fat or oil, with a wick, often made from twisted fibers, set to burn steadily. Their warm, flickering glow complemented the hearth's fire, extending the day's activities well into the night. Candles made from tallow or beeswax also provided portable light for those moving around the Longhouse or stepping outside. A quirky fact: some Viking lamps were designed with decorative motifs, simple carvings of animals or symbols, adding a touch of artistry to their functional purpose. It's amusing to think that even in the dim light, aesthetics mattered. Historians still debate how widespread the use of lamps and candles was among different social classes. Were these light sources common in all homes, or reserved for the wealthier? Archaeological finds suggest varying availability, likely influenced by region and wealth. Remember the smoky haze from earlier sections? These supplemental lights helped offset the haze's dimming effect, making the Longhouse a little less shadowy after sunset. They were small but vital players in the rhythm of daily life. So, as you imagine the flickering oil lamps casting soft halos, let their gentle light guide you deeper into the calm night of Viking Longhouse life. You feel the Longhouse grow quiet as darkness settles outside, signaling the end of another day. Nighttime in a Viking Longhouse was a time of rest, but also careful arrangement, as sleeping quarters were shared among family members and sometimes even animals. The smoky air lingered, and the fire's embers glowed low, providing just enough warmth for a comfortable night. Beds were simple platforms or raised areas covered with furs and straw, designed to keep sleepers off the cold wooden floor. Space was tight. People often slept close together to share body heat during the harsh Nordic nights. Privacy was minimal, but the shared sleeping arrangements strengthened bonds among kin. Interestingly, some archaeological evidence suggests that men and women sometimes slept separately, though the practice likely varied. Children, elders, and guests had their designated spaces, reflecting the household's social structure. Historians still debate the extent of these sleeping arrangements, with some suggesting that longhouses functioned more like communal dormitories, while others argue for more individualized spaces in wealthier homes. Remember the warmth and light of the hearth from earlier sections? As the fire died down, its warmth remained a comforting presence, helping stave off the chill and dark until dawn. So, as you settle under your own covers tonight, imagine the Viking Longhouse settling into quiet companionship, a sanctuary of shared warmth and gentle breathing, surrounded by the whisper of old wood and fading firelight. You hear the excited murmur of voices and the clatter of wooden bowls as the Longhouse transforms from a humble home into a festive gathering place. Festivals and special occasions punctuated Viking life, providing respite from daily toil and a chance to celebrate harvests, victories, or seasonal changes. These events were marked by feasting, music, and communal rituals. The Longhouse, with its spacious interior and roaring hearth, was the perfect venue for such celebrations. Tables groaned under the weight of roasted meats, fresh bread, cheeses, and barrels of mead and ale. People donned their finest garments, often dyed and decorated, signaling the occasion's importance. A delightful detail. Some Viking feasts included competitions, storytelling contests, wrestling matches, or drinking games, bringing lively energy to the smoky room. Laughter and cheers mingled with the crackling fire. Historians still debate how frequent these festivals were, and whether they followed strict religious calendars, or were more spontaneous. Archaeological evidence, sagas, and rune stones provide tantalizing, but sometimes contradictory clues. Remember the communal spirit from earlier sections? Festivals heighten these bonds, reinforcing kinship and community ties through shared joy and tradition. As the night deepens, imagine the Longhouse alive with music, dance, and stories, an ancient celebration echoing through the ages, wrapped in firelight and friendship. You notice a small bundle of herbs hanging near the hearth, their fragrance mingling with the smoke and warmth. Health and hygiene in the Viking Longhouse were a patchwork of practical habits and folk remedies, essential in a world without modern medicine. Cleanliness wasn't what we'd expect today, but the Vikings had their own ways of staying well and treating ailments. Daily hygiene involved regular washing, often in cold water or nearby rivers, and combing hair to remove lice. Yes, lice were a common nuisance despite their best efforts. Using herbs like juniper, thyme, or yarrow, they created poultices and salves to treat wounds, infections, or skin problems. Some herbs were burned to cleanse the air, believed to ward off disease and evil spirits. A quirky fact: Vikings were known to use fermented shark meat for medicinal purposes, believing its properties could aid digestion and healing. Not exactly the smelliest remedy, but it shows their resourcefulness. Historians still debate the extent of Viking medical knowledge, and how much was shared orally versus written in early medical texts. Some evidence suggests healers held respected positions within communities, blending herbal lore with ritual practices. Remember those fires and smoke from earlier sections? The smoke might have helped reduce insects and bacteria, unintentionally contributing to health. So, as you breathe in the imagined scents of herbs and firelight, consider how these ancient remedies connected Vikings to their environment and to a hopeful, healing tradition. You hear the gentle rustling of animal fur and the soft snorts of livestock nestled near the hearth's warmth. Animals were not just companions, but essential members of the Viking Longhouse household, sharing space and daily life in close quarters. From sturdy farm animals to loyal dogs, their presence was woven into the fabric of survival and comfort. Cattle, sheep, and goats provided milk, meat, wool, and leather, while chickens laid eggs and scavenged scraps. Dogs guarded the homestead and assisted in hunting, their keen senses invaluable in the rugged landscape. Occasionally, cats prowled to control rodents, protecting precious food stores. A fascinating tidbit: Vikings sometimes kept pigs indoors during winter months, allowing the animals to share the warmth of the Longhouse, much like extended family members. It's a cozy image, but also a practical one in harsh climates. Historians still argue about how clean and organized these mixed living spaces were. While some sources depict animals living harmoniously inside, others suggest efforts to keep them separated to reduce disease risk. Remember those smoky hearths and nighttime warmth? Animals contributed to household heat, their bodies adding to the shared warmth in chilly seasons. So, as you imagine the gentle breathing of animals mingling with human life, picture the Longhouse as a vibrant ecosystem, a place of intertwined lives and mutual dependence. You step back and gaze upon the Longhouse not just as a building, but as a symbol of Viking culture, a sturdy, communal hearth embodying family, survival, and identity. These structures weren't merely shelters. They represented the interconnectedness of kinship, tradition, and the natural world. Longhouses served as centers for decision-making, storytelling, and celebrations, anchoring communities in a shared physical and cultural space. Their design reflected Viking values, practicality, resilience, and hospitality. Walls witnessed generations of births, marriages, disputes, and farewells. An intriguing fact is that some longhouses were elaborately decorated with carved wooden beams and painted motifs, displaying wealth and status. The physical space itself was a canvas of cultural expression. Historians still debate how much the Longhouse influenced broader Scandinavian identity, and whether its communal living arrangements shaped social norms, or vice versa. Was the Longhouse a cause or effect of Viking societal structure? The question remains open. Remember the warmth of the hearth, the stories told, and the shared meals? All these elements made the Longhouse a living organism, breathing with the lives of its inhabitants. So, as you drift deeper into this calm reflection, imagine the Longhouse standing firm against time, an enduring testament to human connection and tradition. You sit quietly by the dying embers, the firelight softening into a gentle glow as the Longhouse settles into night's embrace. The flickering shadows remind you of the countless days and nights lived within these walls, a timeless rhythm of communal living, endurance, and warmth. Life here was not easy, but it was rich with connection. The Longhouse symbolizes humanity's first steps toward creating home, not just a shelter, but a space of shared experience. Each beam, every story told by firelight, and all the simple routines carved out a sanctuary from the wild, cold world outside. As the embers fade, consider how the Viking Longhouse teaches us about resilience and the power of togetherness. In a place where privacy was scarce but belonging abundant, people found comfort in the steady presence of family and fire. Historians still reflect on how these ancient communal homes influenced later housing traditions and social structures, reminding us that our roots are built on shared human stories. So let the slow, steady pulse of the hearth's last glow lull you toward restful dreams, where the echoes of Viking laughter, toil, and warmth carry you gently into the night.